Hi, this is Ed Rising, and welcome back to Ed's Pop-O-Matic podcast, a retro pop culture podcast where everything retro beats anew when you keep it in your heart. Tonight we are speaking with Terry Crain, who is a Beatles author, and he's done several books on the Beatles, more or less on the business end of things. And he's been on our show a couple times in the past. So, Terry, welcome to the show. How are you?
Ed, I am fine. I'm so happy to be here tonight with you. I love your retro podcast because that's exactly where we're going down that memory lane today. We always
Absolutely.
do, which is great.
And we're going to do a focus on your new book release called The Beatles Novelty Songs from 1964 to 1966, an incredibly researched book. And so we're going to have a lot of fun talking about that and those kind of
Sure.
songs and what inspired you to put that together. And our second guest, fumbling through his CDs right now, is our good friend Fred Velez,
Hi,
regular
folks.
person of
Hi,
this
everybody.
channel. Hey, Fred.
Hi, everybody. It's nice to meet
Right.
Terry. I've known about him for a long time.
Yes. We have we
Cool.
have we have our names have run in the same circles. And I think somewhere we met. And someday after this podcast, I'll figure out where that's at.
Well,
Okay.
I like to run people together when I can.
Sure.
Not with my car, but with my podcast.
Okay.
There
Well,
you go.
at the same time.
All righty. So again, this new book that you're releasing, is the Beatles novelty songs from the 1964 to 1966. Terry, can you tell us what the idea was for you to come around to put this book together?
Well, when I did my first book on the NIMS memorabilia, I would go out to the Library of Congress and to look for things to put in the book. And while I was in the Library of Congress, they have great archives from 1964, 65, 60s. All that is great out there. So you
Mhm.
can look through these archives, and I kept seeing these notations that were like records or songs or something, and I'd never heard of these. Yet they had Beatles in the title, or Beatles, or John, Paul, George, and Ringo, or somewhere like that. So I kept thinking, well, I'm going to come revisit this someday because I don't even know what these are. So as I kept going over and over these odd copyright notations out there, I realized that a lot of them were Beatle novelty songs that people had copyrighted and all that. And I started counting them up from 64 to 66, and there were about 300 of them. And I thought, well, that's a lot of those. But as I was looking through the list, I was thinking to myself, but there are other novelty songs out there that are not on this list. And then it dawned on me, well, of course, the Beatles were the hottest thing on the planet. Some people didn't even bother to take time to go get a copyright or something because the Beatles were only going to last 6 months, as we all know. So they had to hurry up and get the stuff out there. So I found about 200 other novelty songs that weren't even copyrighted. So that's how I came up with the 500. And I had seen some research that was done in the 80s that kept saying there are about 500 Beatle novelty songs at that time. So I kind of coincided pretty good with that. So that's how I came up with that.
And for those of my audience that are not familiar, and you should be familiar by now, Terry's book about the book of copyrights on the Beatles is well known, and the book on NEMS, which I showed earlier, is uh, is absolutely tremendous. I mean, it's just beautiful the way that these books have been put together and the graphics and so forth. Because you really get a chance to see what was going on in this world when the Beatles came to America and even before that, and how these people were just so either ahead of the game or whatever, and decided, but you know what, this is going to be the next thing. Somebody has to know how to market these things, and they maybe even before the term marketing even existed, and decided, well, the Beatles is something that we got to get ourselves into. So I'm gonna write something. I'm gonna copyright this. I'm gonna write a song, and I'm gonna make a record, and it's pretty amazing.
It's one of my best stories. And I know Fred is a novelty guy and he's got his CDs and all that stuff there. But one of my best stories that I read was for one of the members of the Bugs. Okay, so one of the members of the Bugs watched the Beatles on Ed Sullivan on that Sunday night,
This
like
was a
most.
this was a group.
Yeah, the Bugs was a group, yes.
The Bugs was a
Yeah.
group.
Oh
Okay,
yeah.
and the
So
Bugs predated the Beatles.
well, the Bugs were kind of yeah, we'll say they predated him. They were kind of doing that. All right. So one of the members of the Bugs watches the Beatles on Ed Sullivan on Sunday night. All right. So then the guy decides, all right, by golly, I'm going to write a song about them. So Monday he writes a song. All right. Tuesday he takes it to his band, and they rehearse it and all this kind of stuff. Wednesday they buy some time and they go record it in a studio, a local studio around where they were. Thursday, they polish it up. They decide what they're going to do with the different graphics and all this kind of stuff and make it sound good. Friday, they're pressing the label.
Wow.
They talk the radio place and the station and all that into pressing the labels. So they're pressing the labels on Friday, and by Saturday morning, it was in the shelves of the local wars. That's how quick a novelty record
That's
could get
amazing.
out there. And
That's
Boy,
amazing.
the
boy,
average the average shelf life, and I know now why they did this and why a lot of them didn't bother to copyright and all this. The average shelf life of a Beatles novelty record was 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So they had to get in and out.
Right.
boy, John Lennon would have loved those guys.
Oh yeah. Absolutely. Fred, were you involved in picking up any of these novelty type records back in the day? Or were you aware of them
Can
at
you still
all?
get? Yeah, and not at the time, but I remember hearing some of them. The most famous one is Ringo, I Love You by Bonnie Joe Mason, who later went on to become Cher,
Yeah.
you know. And so I remember that. And the late, great Joe Pope's fanzine, Strawberry Fields Forever, used to have an audio issue every Christmas, like the Beatles Christmas records. And he would put some of these Beatles novelty songs on there, so you would hear them. And it was very cool to hear those things. And over the couple of years, I've gotten collections of Beatles novelty stuff. I got Beatlemaniacs from Ace Records, a great record label in England. It has a collection of these Beatle novelties. There's one that I have a bootleg of called Bravo Beatles. I have the list of the songs here.
There you go.
And
Fred, I think you're
and there's
freezing on
one
us a little bit.
that I know Terry would know which one it is. And I won't I have the record somewhere, but I won't bring it out. It was by Rhino Records. It was called Beatles Songs, and it came out in the early 80s and it was controversial. Even though it had some really good novelty songs on it, was controversial because the cover depicted a Beatles convention, and among the convention goers was a caricature of John Lennon's killer.
Oh
So
God.
that was definitely in poor taste and whatever.
Absolutely. Right.
It was reissued later, but with a different cover.
Yeah.
Uh, but that first cover killed. Well, I hate to say that word, but
Yeah,
it
yeah,
ruined
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah,
sales
yeah,
of that
yeah,
album.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Sure.
Any effect of it. Could you had a listing of songs you were showing for a moment ago, but your photo was your video your video is freezing a little bit. So could you
Oh,
show us that listing of songs again?
okay. Well, here's the cover of
No, the listing of songs.
the listing of songs. Here we goes. I don't know if you can read them very well.
Oh, there you go.
Okay, you got the "We Love You Beatles" by the Carefrees. I had a dream I was a Beatle.
Oh,
My boyfriend is a Beatle. Beatle haircut. My boyfriend got a Beatle haircut.
yes, he
We
did.
love the Beatles. I led her to the Beatles. The Beatle. I mean, these are very much about the Beatles. I would have to say.
Definitely. And I'll show you the back
Very.
cover of the Ace Records because it has the titles there too.
Oh, okay.
It's a different collection.
I see.
Uh-huh.
Oh wow,
And
that's
here,
cool. That's so. It's nice to know that these songs are together and they're not completely forgotten because I'd imagine like Terry said a moment ago, you figured the shelf life for these songs was going to be 2 weeks. You know,
Oh,
nobody expected that we'd be able to talking about the Beatles all these years later.
and here's one that I'm sure most Beatle fans have in their collection. Alvin and the Chipmunks sing the Beatles,
Hey,
Right. Exactly.
and this was
right.
actually very popular.
Yeah.
This probably I think lasted more than 2 weeks, huh, Terry?
Yeah. Yeah. Yes, that one did. And in fact, that one, uh, what a weird thing. That one won a Grammy. For
It won a Grammy.
Really?
it was like their engineer or something like that is the one that got the Grammy award. But that
Didn't
one
he
has
win? Didn't he
that
win
one
a
has
Grammy for the earlier Chipmunk songs? Whatever.
no, there's no Grammy for any of those other songs. But Alvin
A
and the
Christmas
Chipmunks.
time is here, or whatever it is. That song that they, whatever. Yeah, great
Well,
stuff by the Chipmunks. We love the Chipmunks.
there's a song that the Beatles referenced also, a novelty song called "All I Want for Christmas Is a Beatle." I forget the name of the artist. I'm probably you might know who it is.
Dora
It's a,
Bryant.
yes, and the Beatles referenced it in a BBC interview, I think, in which they were making fun of it, calling where you hear George singing, "All I want for Christmas is a bottle."
Yeah, and there's times that people go, well, I wonder how the Beatles reacted to those songs, just like Fred was saying like that and everything. But there's interviews that you will hear the Beatles do that someone will ask them, well, hey, what do you think about this new novelty song or this one? And the Beatles actually in these interviews, they're their biggest fans. They're going, oh, we love it. We're great. We're glad someone's doing this. They're performers. We are all behind the performance and hope they do well in these records. So there was never really no, we don't want that. They were as big as fans as anybody.
Yeah, and
Really?
it's not just the Beatles. Elvis during his early success in the 50s, there were novelty records of him as well. And later on in the 60s, you had when the Monkees came out, there were a few novelty records on them as well. So it did spread the gamut pretty much.
Sure,
Yeah.
exactly, exactly.
So the only one that I really remember really was "We Love You Beatles." Oh yes, we do, which
Yeah.
of course was rewritten for David Cassidy by 1970, 71.
And you
Yeah,
know what? The thing that I like so much, I think, about the novelty songs and the NIMS material and all that kind of stuff, it's always the backstories of these things. It's not, maybe the song kind of goofy or whatever, and the title's kind of goofy and all that, but it's the
yeah,
backstories. And like "We Love You Beatles" by the Carefrees. The Carefrees were three young ladies and three guys from over in England who recorded that. Well, one of the ladies on the record was Lynn Cornell. You know, that name doesn't ring too much of a bell, but Lynn Cornell was married to Andy White. Now, in Beatles history, who was Andy White? He was the drummer on "Love Me Do" when they wouldn't let
right,
Ringo play that first time. So it's those little stories. It's that
yeah.
small world stories that I seem to be drawn to those kind of things. It's the background stories of all these things.
You know what's amazing is that these people were musicians themselves. I mean, somebody that went to the trouble of composing a song in one day, rehearsing it with his band, printing it, doing it on tape, and then putting it on vinyl. Not only had the thought process that this is a money maker, but actually had enough musicianship to be able to go out and make a record. So there was a lot of talent in a lot of the people that were making some of these records.
Well,
And
let me give you one another example. "A Beatle I Want to Be" by Sonny Curtis. All right. And this was written
Yeah.
in January of 64, even before the Beatles came to the United States. But like who was Sonny Curtis? Well, he
it
was
wasn't
part of
Sonny Bono, was it?
no, but Sonny Curtis was part of the Crickets. All right. So who does Sonny Curtis get to play background in January of 64 on this novelty song? Well, let's see. He's got um, he's got Jerry Allison, another Cricket, on drums. He's got Cricket guitarist Tommy Allsup. That's who's on that. Who else was on guitar? Well, Billy Strange and some guy named Glenn Campbell was on
Wow.
that. Was
Wow.
on that. And who
Yeah.
plays piano on this Beatle novelty song? Leon Russell. I mean, you
Wow.
can't get much of a better pedigree
And
than
that
That's
song is
incredible.
on this CD.
exactly. Exactly. So it's the cool things like that that you find. What you find with these songs is that a ton of these songs are people go on to do other things. Well, it's so cool to see, well, that person's on this song before they went and did this. I said,
Right,
yep.
right.
So that's what makes it so neat. Part of the things that make it so neat.
Oh
Terry,
yeah.
could you tell us a little bit about some of the other artists that maybe became larger afterwards that maybe got sprung from doing a Beatles novelty type record?
I can. And one of my favorite stories is I interviewed Gene Cornish. Gene Cornish of the Rascals. All right. Well, what does Gene Cornish do before the Rascals? Gene Cornish is on a novelty song. It's by Gene Cornish and the Unbeatables. Ha ha. That was their name. For that one song, that was the name of their band. All right. So so they do a song, I Want to Be a Beatle. All right. Well, Gene Cornish and his band is playing New York and all this stuff, and they're playing like the Peppermint Lounge and everything like that. Well, there's not too many people coming to see them. They play their new Beatle novelty song. You know, no offense, no one really is listening, no one cares, and all that. For some odd reason, and Gene Cornish still can't figure this out to this day. Over in Puerto Rico, the song I Want to Be a Beatle by Gene Cornish and the Unbeatles, they sell 30,000 copies of
Ah,
this song. They get Gene Cornish and his buddies get on a plane and they fly to Puerto
Puerto
Rico.
Rico.
Gene Cornish tells me it's like being in the movie A Hard Day's Night. They're mobbed at the airport. They can hardly get to the hotel. There's girls hiding in the stairwells and in the vents at the hotels trying to get to them. They play all these shows there. One was a sold out 10,000 seat athletic stadium, all to see them and all that. Well, they play this and it lasts about 2 weeks and it's great. They get back on the plane, fly back to New York, nothing. It's just they walk off the plane just like you and I.
Oh, my people, my peoples.
Right? Oh my God. What a come down. But that's pretty funny.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's it's stuff like that. It's when you find out that Harry Nilsson had a Beatle novelty song that he wrote before he was big, before he did Midnight Cowboy and all this stuff
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that. You,
And which
you
was his song?
his was all for the Beatles, stand up and holler. 2 bits, 4 bits, 6 bits a dollar, all for the Beatles, stand up and holler is
Yeah,
what
and Harry later did uh You Can't Do That using
yes,
all the Beatle references and titles and everything running through the song, and he did it again with Ringo on Ringo's remake of Back Off Boogaloo. So,
there you go.
mhm,
Yes, exactly. I
mhm.
mean, you get Ella Fitzgerald, the one and only jazz singer. What does she do? She writes a song called Ringo Beat, and she demands that her record uh, execs record it because they're kind of worried now. You sure you want to do a song about the Beatles? And she says yes. So she's got Ringo Beat. You got
That's pretty amazing, and that Ella Fitzgerald
yeah, yeah.
would put something out like this.
You got
And
you
have you ever
yeah.
heard it?
Oh yeah, it's a standard one. It might be on some of Fred's CDs right
I
there.
have it on. It's the third from the bottom
There you go.
right
Ringo
there.
Beat right there.
Wow,
Ella
that's
Fitzgerald.
amazing.
That's it. You got Holland, Dozier, and Holland, the big Motown guys.
Right.
They have a Beatle novelty song that they wrote. R.D. Taylor is on that too, and I think R.D. Taylor is the one that actually sings it on that. And what's so, and this is what I mean. What's so cool, and I said this. I've said this a couple times to some other people. Before he was in the right place at the wrong time, Dr. John had a Beatles novelty record. Before raindrops fell on his head, B.J. Thomas sang on a
BJ
novelty
Thomas.
record. And before he wrote the songs that has "See That Girl," "Watch That Scene," "Diggin' the Dancing Queen," Stig Anderson had a novelty record. I mean, and
Oh, how do you like that?
it just goes on and on and on
Well, you
like
could
that.
even count George Martin. He had sort of with Ringo's theme.
Exactly, exactly. You got that off the Beatle track album and all that stuff like that.
Right.
They're
And that
skirting
was
by.
sort of a novelty thing.
It was sort of a novelty.
And the
Uh,
thing is, it had the real Beatles on the cover, even though they don't play on it.
exactly, exactly. So and it goes on now. And Ed, if you don't mind, I'm gonna say another thing.
Please do.
One of the interesting things that I really didn't know until I started researching this. And I thought, well, I know pretty much about the Beatles. Well, I ran into this part right here that I knew nothing about. This thing called a song poem. All right, I kept seeing all these songs that were copyrighted that were about the Beatles that I had never heard. I did not know the authors. I did not know anything. I'd look them up out on the web trying to find some MP3s or trying to find
Yeah.
somebody who knew something, and there was none. I bet I found 40 to 50 of these 500 songs that were at the end they were what's called song poems. So I was looking up what the heck is a song poem? Well, if you remember when you used to get your comic book magazines and you go to the last page and they had all the one ads and the different kind of things like that in between the x-ray specs you could buy and all that kind of stuff
Yeah.
like that. Well, they would always have these little things that said we're looking for poems to turn into songs, and
Right.
this was back in 64 and even before that. So what you did is you wrote your poem, and it might be you, it might be grandma, it might be Uncle Joe, it might be anybody that's sitting around that's thinking, well, these Beatles are pretty cool. I'm going to write a poem about them. So they write a poem. Well, they take this poem, they send it in with $20 or $15 to these recording studios or whatever. And these recording studios back then took on the average about 12 minutes a song. They would get the poem, they would look through it, they go, okay, if we put four chords right here and do this, this is what we'll do, and I'll sing it. Ready? One, two, three, and boo, and there they go. They record this song. 12 minutes are up, they get another poem. All right, okay, we got to add five chords to this one. Here's what we're gonna do. So you did this all day. These musicians did this all day, and for your 15 or $20, what you got back in the mail was two very breakable 45 records. And sometimes they would take that song and go out and copyright it for you because they told you they would. Sometimes they
Yeah.
didn't even bother to do that.
Right. Right.
And these songs, in my opinion, except for a few song poems that have surfaced and are still around, these songs are gone forever because
Yeah.
grandma sent in a poem. Grandma said, you know what? These Beatles are the hottest thing on the planet. I'm going to write a poem about them, and I'm going to copyright it and get a record, and I'm going to make $1 million. And so she did. She sent her $15 in, her $20 in. She got this record. It's long gone. Every everybody has lost that. But that notation of that song is still out in the Library of Congress. And that's where
Because
I
it's
found
copywritten.
40 or 50 of these songs that Fred and I and you, Ed, will never hear because
Yeah.
they are long gone. But the title is there and who wrote it is there, and how cool it is to find these. So when you guys look through the book sometime and you see the list of songs and you're going, where in the world? I've never heard these. Well, I know you haven't because we a lot of us have never heard a lot of these.
Yeah, you guys keep talking because I'm going to look for something. I'll be right back.
Okay, thanks, Fred. Thanks, Fred.
So that's what's so. Once I started realizing what those were, and there are websites, BS, www.songpoem.com or whatever it is. If you go look at these things, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. There's thousands and thousands and thousands of these song poems that everybody wanted to get in on something. And they usually happened when something big in the US happened. For example, when President Kennedy got shot, the song poem graph went way up because everybody wrote a poem about it.
Sure. Right.
Everybody said that. When the Beatles came, it went up. When other things came happened around that time, the graph went up. So you can almost trend these things out like that. But that is a genre that I was not familiar with. But man, what a cool genre that is. And these songs, some of these are just some of them aren't bad. Some of them are horrible. When you take 12 minutes to try to figure out how to do a song, you understand what it's going to sound like. But they had musicians in a room, everybody on their stool, and they were good musicians and everything. They put
And I knew how to put a pop song together.
exactly. That's
Pretty
it.
much, yeah. So what's interesting to me is that the process, again, you've given us a good insight as to where it was coming from, the research that you did. How long did it take for you to
Oh,
recognize that writing a book about the Beatles novelty songs and then doing the research? How long did that take you to do that?
Well, I started finding these when I was doing way back, doing 6 or 7 years ago, doing research for the NIMS book, even longer than that. So I just kept a little list to the side. I thought I got to come back to find what in the world are some of these. And when I was doing the copyright book, I really ran across a ton of them that I had no idea what all these notations were out there. And
Yeah.
once I got the copyright books done and I could concentrate on these, I would go back to visit these songs, and it was just yes, I found 500, if not a little bit more. And I'll be honest, guys, I was to the point sometimes I was going, please don't let me find any more. They just
I mean, what, you got 500 of them there?
yeah, you
So I was
don't
like,
realize
that's
how
a
many
lot of
how
songs.
many of these things are out there. It's like you got to be kidding me. But they all have their unique traits about them.
okay.
And I
Now,
would I would imagine that Paul has the most songs written about him.
Fred, go ahead and ask your question, and I'm going to answer him.
okay, you mentioned the song poems. I think I found one.
What do you got there?
It's called Bring Back My Beatles by a group called the Detours. Not the Detours that became the Who, but I think this is an American group called the Detours. And
Okay.
I got this at my local record store here in Red Lion, Pennsylvania, Tom's Music Trade. He might still have copies of these. So if you guys are in Red Lion, Pennsylvania, visit Tom's Music Trade, ask about Bring Back My Beatles by the Detours. He might still have these.
There you go.
The B side is Money, you know. So, but I'm wondering if I don't know if this was one of those song poems, but it might have been a song that this group might have put together, hoping to cash in on the Beatles.
Does it indicate when it was released?
I'm looking at it.
It was 64.
It might have been 64, maybe later, because it
No,
doesn't have a
it
year.
was 64. It was Bring Back My Beatles was 64 on
You got it. You got the man
McSherry
right here.
Records.
McSherry.
Yeah,
You have that?
yeah, McSherry Records. Yes.
Oh, you do? Oh, well, there you go. I
Yeah.
thought I was the only one.
No.
I believe Terry Crain has got everything possible in this particular area.
Notice that my hands don't leave my sleeves, don't leave my
So
wrists.
exactly. So Ed, you ask about, well, Paul's the one that's probably got most of the songs about it. So we're going to digress a minute when we go back to the Beatles memorabilia. All right. And we're going to digress for a second because here's the Remco doll right here in my hand, like this.
Right.
Yeah, John, Paul, George, and Ringo, the Remco doll, like that. In 1964, the Ringo doll, which is right here, the Ringo doll
Say that
outsold
3 times.
outsold all the other ones 5-1.
Wow.
This outsold the Ringo outsold all the other three 5-1. Now the novelty songs go along the same line. You Ringo by far has so many songs about him.
Yeah.
It's just it's funny. So it follows the national trend right there. Everybody
Yeah.
loved Ringo. They wanted him for president. All this kind of stuff.
We
And
love you,
we
Ringo.
love
Yes,
you,
we
Ringo. Yeah,
do.
you're right. You're right. And he had so many songs out there. Uh, they even had two songs with the same name called Ringo's Dog. Well, you think, well, it's a song about him
Ringo's
walking
dog.
his dog. No, it was the latest dance craze. They called it the Ringo Dog. And even out there on somewhere, you'll find the steps on a piece of paper of how you should do the steps to learn how to dance to the Ringo
The
Dog.
Ringo dog. That's
It,
pretty funny.
it's
And, and the funny thing is that Lauren Green had a song out, Ringo. It had nothing to do with the Beatles or anything. It was just a
correct.
it was a Western themed song,
Yeah.
but the fact that it was called Ringo, I think, helped say boost sales.
There's no doubt.
Yes.
And Lauren Green, I've seen comments from him that even though the song it shows up in some Beatles novelty thing, it's got nothing to do with the Beatles. The song is zero to do with that. But
Yeah.
because it had the word Ringo in it, that helped his rise on the chart for
Right.
the Ringo.
And Lauren Green was Bonanza, right?
He was.
He
Yes.
was.
Yep.
He was Bonanza, right?
Yep. He
I
was
get
Paul.
Bonanza and Gunsmoke mixed up an awful lot. Yeah.
And
Uh,
let's go into like another Hollywood thing. What was the name of John Wayne's character in the movie Stagecoach?
Oh, that one I have forgot.
Ringo.
Oh yeah.
close in now.
Yes.
There you go. There you go.
Very cool.
I,
John, yeah, Terry, you have a copy of the book there so you can show the audience the book and maybe a couple of pictures inside and things like that.
tell you what,
What do you got?
as I was going on and on and on about when I was doing this book, I'm thinking, man, this thing's going to be big. Well, it's 656 pages. It's 2 inches thick, and
Wow.
this thing weighs 5 pounds, so it can be a
You can do a
doorstop or
workout.
whatever it is you want to be. Exactly on that thing right there, and it just goes on and on and on. Here's for example.
Wow.
I know it's hard to hold up and all that, but that gives you an idea. It tells you about the song, and right in the middle,
Yeah.
it tells you if it's copyrighted and who wrote it and all that kind of stuff. And all around the outside of it, it'll tell you like little tidbits and everything about that. And it
Very
just
cool.
goes and goes and goes.
Is this
Oh,
record in
that's
there?
fantastic.
Is this record in there?
Well, yeah, it's on. Let's see, it's on page 234.
Wow.
There you go,
I
Fred.
got to tell my friend in the record store about that.
Heck yes, heck yes. So I mean, it's just it's 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 fun stuff. Is what it is. You can't beat the backstories. You can't.
Actually, you know what, Fred? You ought to give him the address and the guy's number because he might want to even sell them in the store.
It's and it
Maybe.
that's a song you showed. I've seen on eBay myself.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Very cool. All right. All right. So I wanted to ask you to go back a little bit to what was the name that Cher used back in the day? Was it Bonnie something?
Bonnie Joe Mason.
Yeah.
Bonnie Joe Mason. So was this the first time she sang lead on a record?
It was Bonnie Joe Mason was 16 years old. Usually she was the background singer for some songs. Phil Spector was the writer and the producer of that song. And he said, we're going to put you out in front and have you sing this. And it's the first time she was out front on a microphone like that on a record
Wow.
disc. And and here we go with the backstory. One of the most interesting, I think, backstory on that is that that song went out. Local DJs wouldn't play it. They didn't want to play that. And Cher or Bonnie Joe, and some of the executives who helped with the records and all that, they had to go travel around to the local DJs to say, why won't you play our song? We think it's pretty good. And they would always, the DJs would say, well, the person singing this song has a real low voice. And some of our listeners might think it's a guy singing to Ringo, Ringo, I love you. And that's not very cool in 1964 that we can
Right,
have that
right.
out there. So Bonnie Joe Mason had to go out and say, no, it really was me. I have a low voice. So it is a girl singing to a guy. And if you listen to it, it's Cher. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
it
just,
is.
it's Cher. But of course, she's got her low voice, just
I've
like you
heard the
always say.
record and she
Yeah,
sounds really good,
yeah, it's
very
her.
polished,
Exactly.
and then of course you had all those great records and just around after that, I guess that's when Spector decided to record Sonny and Cher,
Yeah.
and then they had Baby Don't Go and all those kind of other songs.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah,
And and
tremendous.
and their show where we watched every week, what is she gonna wear tonight?
Oh yeah,
I
yeah.
remember seeing that all the time.
Bob Mackie dresses.
There
That's
you
what she
go.
There
was
you go.
wearing,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
since
And
she's still going after all these years.
exactly. One thing you think about on Beatle novelty records, and I'm gonna read something to you here, but what you think, well, the Beatles are rock and roll, so all these novelty records are going to be in rock and roll. Well, that would not be the case because I've got American folk, British folks, foxtrot, jive, samba, bluegrass, doo-wop, country, rock and roll, big band, blues, jazz, orchestral, spoken word, surf, ska, and my favorite, polka. You got the Beatles in polka. There's a couple songs out there that are pretty cool that are Beatles polka, and they're all over the place. If you Dick Pilar was a big polka guy, and he's got two Beatles songs out there, and that when you listen to it, you're just going, oh my gosh! But here it is,
That's
the
Mhm.
pretty amazing.
Beatles.
You know
Hey,
what's amazing is all the research that you put together to put this together to for go for to listen to a lot of these songs,
yes,
to be able
you
to
get
find out the history of all these songs, put it together in this amazing book of yours. Now, my next question for you is that I mean, we all believe the Beatles were unique. There was a totally unique phenomenon that very, very few have even touched. The Monkees, to some degree, reached there. Sorry, Fred. Um, got there a little bit, but never not to the same level as the Beatles. What other bands would you think, or singers even, had that kind of following where they had novelty songs written about them? Have you done any research on that, or would that drive you out of your mind thinking about going through that
it would drive
process?
it would drive me out of my mind. I've had people ask me, "Well, are you going to do 1967 on?" And I don't know. That's just I had a nice defined area right there. And you know what, Ed, and I'll ask Fred this. I don't think there's been anybody. There's nobody that had the kind of coverage and novelty records and stuff like that like the Beatles did. I even if it's minuscule, uh, you might have had a couple of novelty records and all that, but not 500 in a 3-year period.
Yeah,
Then you
yeah,
go,
yeah.
then you go on to 67 plus, where there's even more like that.
I imagine that's an incredible thing to think about because and you also have to look at what was being made around that time. I mean, you have the a lot of the dance craze records that were done around that time.
Sure.
The teeny weeny yellow polka dot bikini and things like that, where it was a little bit more so-called innocent, and some of them were not quite so innocent.
Yeah.
When you listen back at them, 40, 50 years later, um, but I think that maybe records became a bit more sophisticated the later 60s and 70s. So maybe doing even for the teeny bopper bands and the groups at that time, I can't recall anything that was done for the Partridge Family that
No.
was done as a novelty uh, Other than, like I said, "We Love You, David." That's pretty much about it.
Yeah, and you
And,
got
Yeah,
to
and that wasn't even a record. That was just fans singing that, you
right.
know.
You have to remember that in 64 and 65 and 66, this stuff was just fun. Okay? That's
Yeah.
really what it was. I will put something out on my social media, something like that. Homer and Jethro in 1964 did a song called gonna send them home because they're stealing all the money, they're stealing all the girls. Well, they're gonna have to grow their hair long so they can be like the Beatles and all that. And you put that song out there on social media these days, and
Oh,
people
sure.
go, "Oh, they didn't like the Beatles. Oh, well, how can they say that against them?" Blah blah blah. And I'm thinking, relax. It's 62 years ago. It was fun back
It's
then.
a sense
The
of
the
humor.
the book is fun.
Yeah.
All this stuff is fun now. It's goofy, it's wild and wacky, but it's fun, is what it is. And
right,
when you look at stuff like that, just leave that context. Just leave it like that. It's just fun stuff.
right.
Absolutely. And
Yeah, and
Terry, you've been bringing fun stuff to us, and maybe like the NEMS book is a lot of fun. I gotta get a copy of the second edition that's good that you put out. I'm gonna put that on my list to get, and the new book, of course. But you've been bringing a lot of these things out to us, and if my audience is not familiar, and those of you who have been to Fest for Beatles fans, you may have certainly met Terry Crain. Uh, through those fests, and you did a wonderful production on. I believe it focused mostly on Beatles novelty songs
Yeah.
at the fests for Beatles fans, and I hope that you will continue to do that and even bring that presentation out into other places like libraries and things like that.
Yes,
Would be a great
exactly.
idea to do
Yeah.
that because it's a
Yeah.
great show.
yeah. You guys mentioned, well, we already touched on it, that besides the Beatles, Elvis Presley had all those novelty songs that came out, and to an extent, the Monkees did too. And you got to keep one in mind that it's very, I guess, infamous is the word. William Shatner's take on Lucy in the Sky
Lucy
with
in the Sky with
Diamonds.
Diamonds. Yes, yes, yes.
And she's
Yeah.
gone.
Those are classic now, aren't they? Those are
Yeah.
great.
And I was
I think
just looking,
Shatner didn't Shatner just release a new rock album?
he might have.
Something like he's got nothing else to do. I mean, man is amazing. 80
Yeah.
something years old.
I was just looking at the
Okay, Fred, I think you're
uh,
frozen on us.
the song. It's still here that like
Fred,
late
could you start
60s.
again? Fred,
John, you
could,
went to, oh, okay.
Oh,
On the Ace
okay.
Records compilation, Beatlemaniacs, there's one, John, you went too far this time, which deals with, I guess, uh, the Two Versions
his
album.
comments about Jesus.
Yeah.
And no, 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 about the
Oh,
two,
the Two Virgins album. Yeah.
It's
right,
it,
right. And the Ballad of Paul, which obviously deals with the Paul is dead rumors. So,
Uh,
okay. Now, Fred, I'm gonna tell you a backstory on the John. You went too far. It's a great story. Okay. Yet the singer was Rainbow. Okay, so Rainbow decides because John and Yoko are naked on this cover that they've gone too far this time. So that's what the song is basically about. You've gone too far, blah 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 blah. So this was in '69, I believe, is when she did
right.
uh, Rainbow decided in the 70s that she really wasn't getting very far in being a singer and a songwriter and that kind of thing like that. So Rainbow decides to have a career change. All right. She becomes an actress. All right. So she has some minor roles here and there. And then Rainbow, under her real name, which was Sissy Spacek, gets
Ah.
Carrie.
oh, wow.
So when you see Carrie next time and with the knife in her hand and the blood and everything after the prom scene, you can think, well, she just said John went too far and she's there in the prom like that. I always think what a cool issue that is right there. But that's who Rainbow is Sissy
That's
Spacek.
incredible. Amazing. You got people involved in all these Beatles stuff, it's amazing. You know, great. So where can people find your book, Terry?
My website is called www.fabgear, and that's two words that put together. It's fab and everything's gear. So it's fabgear, one word, dot company. It's not dot com, it's dot company. You write it out. And it's all out there. The NIMS memorabilia book is out there, the copyrights and the new novelty. And we give you all kinds of different ways to order and stuff like that, depending on where you live and which one, what hardcover, soft cover, all that kind of stuff. So we've done a pretty good job of being able to help the people out there with what it is that they want. So it's a fabgear.company.
And what
Yeah,
is the
and
name of what is your publisher?
Ingram Spark is who's doing it this time.
Very cool. Fred?
we had talked about it before the podcast started, that hopefully there might be a ebook version, like a PDF or something.
There may be. I'm just researching that right now. Ebook, my issue, because they're so graphically illustrated, it doesn't fit very well in the ebook platform. But we're researching how we can try to get that in that, and it just came up and we're talking very seriously about stuff like that. Hey, I got one
No,
more
that'd be
story
cool.
for you because I know we're
Please.
probably heading off soon. I got one more story for you. Uh, the next time you guys are in your James Bond mood, okay? So you turn on Doctor No, and in Doctor No, there's a scene where James Bond is at a nightclub. I think it's an outdoor nightclub, I think, where he's walking around. I think there's a girl taking pictures or stuff like that. He's in this outdoor nightclub and all this. And of course, that issues follow James Bond everywhere he goes and that. But in that scene, there is a band playing in the background that you'll even see as Bond is in as they're panning the camera and there's a band playing Jamaica ska and all this kind of stuff in the background. That band is Byron Lee and the Dragoneers, and that was in 1962. Well, what does Byron Lee and the Dragoneers go on to do? 2 years later, they have a Beatles novelty song called Beatles, You Gotta Go. So the next time you watch Dr. No, look carefully. I think it's pretty close to the front of the movie, maybe within the first 15 or 20 minutes. You'll see Bond, Sean Connery in the nightclub, and you'll see Byron Lee and the Dragoneers up on stage singing there, and that was before they were infamous with their Beatles novelty song.
And
Very
they were
cool.
shaken, not stirred.
There you go.
Shaking nuts.
Exactly. Exactly.
Very good. Okay, so I'm going to ask you guys to just give a little bit of a end thing as far as where people can find you. I know you just gave a little promo for your book for Terry, but Fred, why don't you start? Let people know where they can find you, where your books are, and things like that, and then we'll finish up with Terry.
Okay, you can find my books on Amazon. My two books. The first one, A Little Bit Me, A Little Bit You, The Monkeys from a fan's perspective. And my more current book, A Little Bit Me, A Little Bit You 2, The Monkeys from International Fan Perspectives, both available on Amazon as in print and Kindle. And you could also go on my website. If you don't know if you can see that, freddiePop.wordpress.com if you want to get signed copies of the books. And I will be in a few weeks. Ed will be there too, hopefully Terry, at the M60 Beatles convention. I mean, Monkeys convention. Excuse me. Sorry, Charles. uh, M60 Monkeys
Monkeys
convention
convention.
in at New Haven, Connecticut. The details could be found on this is all one word, monkeysfanconvention.com. So monkeysfanconvention.com. Look up there for the details. It's in a few weeks, September 4th, 5th, and 6th. We hope to see you there. I know Ed's going to go. Terry, we might see you, I hope.
Maybe, maybe. And Fred, as
Cool.
soon as soon as you held your book up, all I can do now is sing in my head a little bit of me and a little bit of you. It's stuck in there now, which is great. I love that song. I love the Monkeys and I love that song. That's a great.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
we all do. We all do.
Yeah.
And those of you who are looking for me,
There
please
he is.
um, Nobody from the IRS, please. No. Anyway, you can find me on Facebook, Ed Rising. On Facebook, you can go to YouTube and type in Ed Rising or Ed's Pop-O-Matic podcast, and you can find all the videos for all the folks that are like Fred and Terry who are on our show, and all the shows we do on, well, whatever it is we want to do, Monkeys, Beatles, Partridge Family, Osmonds. We did a show recently on Harper Marx, wonderful new release that our friend Daniel Costin helped produce. And so you never know what you're going to find, but it'll be something retro, and you can
Right.
find
And
it there.
just want to add, you guys can find me on Facebook and on X as well, and also on MeWe, the MeWe platform. So Facebook, X, and MeWe.
I never heard of MeWe.
I'm gonna have to write
Is
that
that
down,
new?
Fred, right
Is
here.
that new? MeWe?
MeWe, Mewe. That's another platform.
Okay, we got to check that one out.
It gives me another one to have to go mess with. I will
And
do it.
Terry, could you share what you're messing with?
Yeah, you can follow me on Facebook, the NIMS Enterprises or NIMS Memorabilia. I'm like Fred. I'm on all the social media platforms. I'm not on MeWe yet, but I might be within 23 minutes, and I'll be out there to do that. But
Oh, Instagram too. Instagram, excuse me.
exactly, exactly. And I'm so glad, Ed, you do a wonderful job with the show. I'm glad to be here. Fred, I've seen you many times in different places on social media and online and all that. I think we've met, but if we haven't, I'm so glad we got to see you
And I hope we
today
get to
here.
meet face to face at some point,
Exactly,
Terry.
exactly. Ed, you do a wonderful job with the show, and I'll always look forward to these.
Thank you, Terry. And it's a great pleasure to have Terry Crain as my special guest and Fred, who is my regular guest, on with us tonight. And go out and get Terry's new book, The Beatles Novelty Songs 64 to 66. And thank you very much, guys. So have a good night, all right?
Take care,
Thanks,
guys.
Guys,
thanks,
hang on
guys.
with me just a second before I close up here.
Good night.
Good night.
Okay.